All right, today let's talk a little bit about after high school. Let's talk about college some because most of you are probably going to go to college. Some of our students in the past and whatnot, thinking more about technical school, maybe working, construction, heating, and air conditioning. There's a variety of jobs out there that you do not need a college education for and you can do very well at. So you do have to decide if you're going to go to college. And nowadays, we're getting to the point where you have to decide if it's worth it to go to college. Because after all, you could wind up with student loans. Some people do until they're 40, 50 years old. And so that means at 50 years of age, they have $0 saved up. That's a sad situation, and we're trying to avoid that. Now, there's a lot of things we can do on the proactive side. We can go to a community college where expenses are a lot lower. And listen, the education is just as good in a lot of cases. I don't know why we look down, or some do, on community college. I've taken classes at the community college here in my area, and some of my professors have been, I've even liked some of them better than I had a regular college. So, it's a great value for the dollars to go to a community college for a couple of years. And not only that, you could probably maybe work part time. I had a couple of my boys did. They worked part time, did some community classes, and so no student debt, which is a great thing. So you don't really have to borrow money. I know we've told that you have to, and I know it's hard to sell that because, well, how am I going to do it? College is going to cost so much, and it can be done. I mean, maybe you don't go to the college of your choice. Maybe you don't go to the high dollar out of state college or something like that. A lot of ways to get an education. And listen, 10 years from now, nobody really cares where you went to school. I mean, at your job, they want to know if you can do the job. I don't know that they really care. Well, he's not that good, but he went to a really good school. That's not going to cut it. So, if you can do the job, I think you're in pretty good shape. And it's funny, education has skyrocketed and nobody really says anything. But boy, you let gas go up 25 cents a gallon and everybody freaks out like the end's coming or something. And let's not forget some of these other things. Gas is the least of our worries right now. Anyway, so we need to be talking about college education and the high price of tuition and all of that. And I had one of my daughters, she did go to a 4-year college, but she took a lot of classes at the community college. In other words, she didn't go 2 years community college and then go 4 year. She went 4 years, but like in the summer and other things, she knocked out a bunch of classes. So she graduated early. So there's a couple different ways you can do it just to cut down on the expense. Also, you've got to decide on what's your major. I know people that have gone to college, things like University of Virginia, got a degree in like photography, making no money at it, and student debt, and almost 40 years old. How's that? That's not working out. So you've got to decide if your major is going to produce the income. If you're going to do a loan, which we're not recommending, you need to make sure that your job is going to be sufficient. Now, I do want to say something here, only because we're in the middle of the Verona crisis, the coronavirus, and a lot of people are now out of work. This just past week, over 3 million people filed for unemployment. And I want you to understand now the reason we talk about setting aside 3 to 6 months of income. It's for situations like this that you cannot predict. This is like in your emergency fund. This is an emergency. I mean, if you lose your job for 3 months, maybe six, I mean, we're looking at some just what if it's the end of the summer? Coming up on 6 months from mid March to mid September. Now, if you have an emergency fund which is set aside for this type of situation, you're in pretty good shape right now. So I want you to understand that even this present predicament this pandemic reinforces the things that we're trying to teach in this class when it comes to personal finance. I mean, if you had lived over the last 10 years, you say, well, why do I need 3 to 6 months for things like today? I mean, these things happen. If we just go back 20 years, all right, we had 9/11 hit about 20 years ago. About a little over 10 years ago, we had the financial crisis. Now we have this. It's almost, I don't want to say every 10 years, but we could go back to 1987. We had the savings and loan issue. And I'm not going to go back there because a lot of you weren't there. But here's the deal. It's like about every decade sometime. Let me go back from 1987, take you back to 1979 and 1980 when unemployment was going up to 10% and mortgage rates were going up to 16%. I mean, it's like we can't hardly go 10 years without some type of economical upheaval, some type of situation arises where you do not need a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So I just want to reiterate that. We've talked about that, but I think in today's environment, you see the necessity of it. And I know we get in the road 5 or 6 years, and I'll teach this again. And then people say, well, why do I need that? Because see, they weren't there, and you know what I mean. So anyway, so let's just reinforce some things we've already been talking. Now I want to move on into chapter 6 in our workbook, or chapter 5, and that's life after high school. It may still be another year or two away, but you've got to think about what's going to happen when you do get out of high school. Well, first of all, you want to be aware and then be wise. And I want you to invest in yourself. It was Charles Tremendous Jones, a really good book. I should have pulled it off my bookshelf, but I didn't. And I read this book years ago. It's a great book. And here's what he said. He said, 5 years from now, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. So you want to read good books and you want to hang around good people. But you've got to read. All right, you've got to read books. A lot of good books out there. I mean, I know a lot of you are stuck at home, and I know you're on video games right now. I've got 5 kids, 5 adult kids, and if I'm not mistaken, I think 4 of them out of my 5 last night were. I mean, you can do this when you're not together. You can be in remote locations, and they're playing games, I think, on the internet. That's what I get from all the text messages, so they're playing all these video games, and that's fine. In this time, like you kind of run out of things to do, and I get all that. But here's the deal. Ultimately, they're distractions, and they're going to hold you back. So you don't want to get too distracted with video games. I mean, they are entertainment. That's all they are. So just like your money, you're going to have to budget your time when it comes to reading books. And video games aren't going to help you get through a crisis like this. I mean, in the sense that principles and all that. Yeah, it's going to help you pass some of the time because most of us are staying at home. I'm at home, not going anywhere. Might go out for groceries about every 8 days, real quick. Come home, wash my hands. That sort of thing. So anyway, but on page 105, just a sad situation, and debt can ruin a relationship. So you read that. But here's the deal: the average millionaire reads one nonfiction book a month. So how are we doing in that category? A lot of good books out there, a lot of good reads. I mean, there's an older book out there called The Millionaire Next Door. It's a great book, and so on. Another thing here is your net worth as an adult will be the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So, hang out with people who aren't having a lot of financial difficulties. And if you'll survey the landscape, you may see this to be fairly true. The old saying, birds of a feather flock together, there's a lot of truth in that, all right? So, once again, let's think about where we want to go, and then let's get on the path to get there. If you'll recall, we said, okay, our financial GPS, and we just threw out a number like, say, $1 million when you're 60, 65 years old. And it could be 2 million. I don't want to get into that, but we just said like baseline $1 million. Okay, what's going to get us there? All right, we've talked about a variety of things like an emergency fund, no debt, etc. But another one is just reading books. Put that on the road to financial wellness. Reading some good books, and there's a lot of books out there. And maybe in my next video, maybe I'll share a couple. All right, because there's a lot of good books, and in fact, I'll do that. As soon as I cut this off, I will go grab some more, and I'll bring them right here. All right. So the people, and also the people you put in your life influence your career, your decisions also. I mean, people are going to have an impact on some of the decisions you make in life and how you spend your money. So have some mentors, and once again, I'll bring some books in the next video, and who've already had some success. You don't have to know these people personally. You can read their books. You could read their articles, and so on, and they can become mentors in your own life.